retention. Great advantage, obviously, having the system in 2 years in a row. Attitudes have been great. Work habits good. One of our primary focuses this year, already having our system in and knowing a little bit more about what we're doing, is it's been a real focus on personnel, getting people in the right place and trying to identify those people who didn't help us very much last year due to age or inexperience or injury, seeing who's going to emerge and move up into that too deep and help us. So we still got a long way to go, both from a standpoint of our improvement and both obviously from a standpoint of the number of practices. So we do have a few guys making some positive steps, but right now we've still got a long way to go and a lot of time for guys to make those moves.
Ellis mentioned that he wants the defense to be able to play at a faster pace. Was that something that you saw in your evaluation of last season? Or?
Well, it's just something that we're getting more and more of, and so we just got to be prepared for it. We play at a fast pace here and do in practice, so we get a lot of it. I've been in places where we didn't run a tempo offense, and that makes it very difficult. But yeah, we do play some teams that go faster than we do. Some of them just have that philosophy. Texas A&M was, Ole Miss was, Missouri was. There were some teams who they don't do as much when they go fast, so they can obviously repeat plays and do it a little bit faster. But that's one of the things that we hope we can get a little bit cleaner on. It's, as y'all have seen all the back and forth about the rule change and everything else. It's just something that's coming in college football right now, and you have to keep improving on it.
To that end, Ellis, what was your thoughts on the proposed rule change, which even though it's tabled for now, it could be back a year from now?
I don't really know. I think the slow-down guys are really not worried about injuries, and I think the speed-up guys are really not worried about how many plays they get. I think everybody's trying to get their own piece of the pie. But the bottom line is the rules, But I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me what was proposed. If we want to go fast, I think what they'll do is they'll make a rule that you have to snap the ball in 15 seconds so you get delay of game. If you want to go slow, then we just need to go back to the old 25-second clock. But the whole thing, to me, is just people arguing for what they think is going to be an advantage to them. And it really doesn't matter because that's the rules and that's what we're going to play.
Let's just talk about kind of shuffling some guys around up front on the defensive line and, kind of getting some different looks. How good is that in the spring to be able to do some of that?
Well, it really hasn't been as much of a luxury as it's been a necessity. And in addition to being very thin at defensive end in spring practice, we also got, Elijah got a groin the very first drill, the very first practice. So we've actually got Montravius and Gabe working out at defensive end more as a necessity than an evaluation. Both of them do some pretty impressive things out there, but we need their depth and rotation in the interior line. So I don't foresee that being permanent, but it would be good that if we did have some unusual rash of injuries next year or something occur, those guys have got the ability to maybe go out there and help us.
Ellis, can you talk about the star position this spring, what you guys are doing there?
Well, Threes had a broken hand. So he was very limited early, so we decided with Justin Garrett whether to go inside or star. We put him out of star. He's had a good spring so far. McEnroe has made a lot of improvement. He came in obviously without the advantage of spring ball last year, and he really never got caught up as a true freshman. But spring ball is really helping him. So he's had a couple of really good practices out there, and we're seeing daily improvement out of him. Whether Justin stays there or not, all of that, there are a lot of factors in that equation. How deep do we build the depth at the inside backer? And how soon do we get Threesy back? There are all kinds of questions. But Justin has been very unselfish in moving in, moving out, moving in, moving out. It's been probably hard on him to learn it both, but he's had a good spring so far, and right now we can't afford to move him.
How good is it to have him as far as just a guy that can stop the run? Robinson's saying he's probably the best run fit guy at the start position.
Yeah, he had a great spring. He was on his way to a really good preseason, and then he had the foot injury. And by the time he came back, Threesy had established himself as a starter, and we thought Justin maybe could help us more in the box. But then he hurt his foot again. I hope he'll return to Justin Garrett. If y'all can remember back to this time last year, and y'all would ask us, did we find any of those impact plays? D was out, and Justin Garrett was the guy. And then unfortunately he had an injury and didn't play many plays for us. So I hope he can return to to Justin Garrett that we remembered from last spring.
What have you seen out of Derek Moncrief and Jonathan Ford at that safety spot?
Moncrief has been an extremely pleasant surprise. When you get a junior college player who's not played in your system, you always wonder how long it's going to take him to transition. He's making some mistakes out there, as you would expect. But I think at this point, he is way beyond all of the new safeties. I say the word new, meaning those that we don't already know about, the Whiteheads, the Holseys, the guys that have been back there. We know what they can do. It's a matter of them just continuing to improve their craft and get better, be better as leaders and players. But of the rest of the bunch, just fighting for those spots at the star boundary safety, he's been probably the most impressive. He's had a really good spring so far.
He isn't here, he won't be available for spring, Halsey, but how does his return impact how you look at Moncrief, Jonathan Ford, Trevon? Is Halsey going to be a corner? Is he going to come back as a safety?
Well, and that's a go or star. You know, it's one of those things I mentioned earlier. You know, Josh is big enough to play boundary safety, big enough to play star. You know, we'd probably rather have a bigger star backer, but he could end up in the best star if we don't have any depth at linebacker and we have to move Justin. Boundary corner. That's a really critical spot in our roster. Mincy's made a good transition so far, but Josh may end up moving back to boundary corner, you know, if we have to move Mincy around. So we've got a lot of flexibility, got a lot of moving parts. Part of that's good, but to be truthful, I'd like to come out of spring with a little bit better idea about where they all going to fit, and we get a little better continuity. When we started having that rash of injuries last year during the season, a lot of our consistency was lost, and that's what can happen. So it may take spring and a little bit of preseason. Got some good-looking freshmen that are going to come in, and you never want to count on them to solve your problems, but there's always some pleasant surprises in those groups, and I'm sure some of those will help us too. So you're talking about guys like Garrett moving around, you're talking about guys like Holsey moving around, you're talking about some guys that have the ability to do that for us, but I think the sooner we get them settled in the right place, the better off we're going to be.
You flip-flopped Chris and Casanova at linebacker. What have you seen out of them in their new spots so far?
Some of it physically has been very good. Chris has made a real quick transition and it looked really good. Casanova's been bothered by a bruised bone in his hip, and he has not been practicing very much. The 3 days he was healthy and full speed out there, he had some really good practices. If I had to throw a guess up there right now, and both of them back to full speed, probably would leave McKinney in tonight and keep Frost at will. But even today's practice, Chris played both as the practice went on, he rotated at both spots. And I'd like for him to continue to do that. You know, we had a lot of linebackers last year. It was sort of linebacker by committee. I'm not sure we're going to have that many guys. We get into a situation in the spring, in the fall, where I really feel like we only got 3 guys that are ready. I want it to be the ability to play either one of those guys at Michael or Will to get that third best guy on the field with him wherever he is. If we develop some better depth, I see Casanova at the Mike and Chris at the Will.